Federico, we are back with another episode of App Stories. I am, of course, John Voorhees, one of your two hosts. The other host is
It's me.
sitting in Rome, Italy. It's you. It's Federico Vitici.
The other host, it's me. Yes. Hello.
Hello. Sometimes we call you the EIC. Sometimes we call you Mr. Vitici. Sometimes we just call you, I don't know, Fed?
Hey.
Fed,
just
maybe?
Say, hey, how are you?
Just say, it's true. Hey, how are you? So, Federico, we have two sponsors for this episode. We've got Microsoft Lists, which is an app we just covered in Club Mac Stories not that long ago, and iMazing, a Mac app for controlling your iOS devices. And today we are going to kick things off by talking about a little bit about what's new. What's new with you?
Well, you've been busy. You published a long piece on Mac Stories about the M1 Mac.
Well, yes.
What is this story that you put out a few days ago? And why should... So, pitch me your story as if I didn't read it before.
Exactly. Well, all right. Obviously, a lot of people have written about the M1 Macs because they came out like 10 weeks ago. The thing is that a lot of those stories were based around things like benchmarks and those kind of initial tests, which are all great and relevant to making a decision about whether you should buy an M1 Mac. But I've lived with it for about 2.5 months, and I've had a lot more practical day-to-day experience. And so that was kind of the angle I took on the story. I didn't want to rewrite what has already been written by other people. I wanted to see what it would be like to use both a MacBook Air and a Mac Mini that are M1 based Macs basically every day for 10 weeks and get a real deep sense for the practical aspects of running one of those Macs. And so that's basically what I've been doing for the last 10 weeks since before, not long after Thanksgiving in the US, really. And right now I'm looking forward to simplifying my computer setup because I'm sitting here with 3 Macs around me. 2 of them are M1 Macs, and one is an older 2018 Mac Mini. And I've been flipping from one to the other constantly for 10 weeks. And I've got a good setup, and I'm used to doing this from when I do the Mac OS reviews, moving from one Mac to another. But 3 is kind of a bridge too far, and it's a little complicated. And I'm looking forward to just kind of skinning this whole system down to a single Mac.
Interesting. Okay. So I think you got to spend like a weekend or something unplugging cables and reorganizing your desk and deciding which Mac you want to keep around and which one should go in a closet or up for sale. Do you ever sell any of your old computers, John?
I never have. I never have. Usually because I've kept them for so long that they're not really worth anything by the end, because usually I've had a series of Mac Minis and I tend to retire them into service as something like a Plex server. Like right now, I've got a 2012 Mac Mini doing that.
Well, how many Plex servers do you have at this point?
Well, no, eventually then once they just roll off.
You have like a Plex server farm at this point.
No, I don't. I have just one Mac Mini doing that, and it's from 2012, and it sits at a corner and just runs all day and serves the live over-the-air TV that I draw in using an HD home run, which actually, funny that you ask, I have written about that very recently on Club Mac Stories just this past Friday, all about my over-the-air high-definition TV Plex setup that is shared with somebody in Rome who I know.
That is.
I don't know if you've watched that.
I will admit
recently,
back when the world was normal and there used to be like live events that I was interested in watching, like the Oscars and the Grammys,
right.
I would tune in, and my friends, would be very surprised. Like, hey, how do you have access to American television live with commercials, like actual television? It's like, hey, I'm freebooting John's TV via Plex. Cool. All right. So if people want to read about it, they can check out the latest issue of Mac Stories Weekly, where you describe your TV tuner and Plex setup. I, meanwhile, have been thinking about how I share music recommendations online. This is part of a bigger thing that we're planning for 2021 for club members. But generally speaking, since I switched to Spotify, this has been on my mind. Back when I used to use only Apple Music, I only share the Apple Music links because I know that the majority of my followers on Twitter are Apple Music users. But now that I'm using Spotify, I find myself in a position of I personally am using Spotify, so it's easier for me to share a Spotify link. But that doesn't change the fact that my followers are still, primarily Apple Music users. So what I'm considering at the moment is taking a single feature of MusicBot, my Apple Music shortcut, and making it a standalone shortcut. So MusicBot has a feature called Share Streaming Links that uses this service called Audacity. So Audacity is kind of a weird name. It means on-demand smart links. It used to have a much better name. It used to be called SongLink.
SongLink,
it used to be
right?
called SongLink. Now Audacity. I still can wrap my head around that, honestly. But in any case, MusicBot has Audacity integration to generate streaming links for a variety of music streaming services. So you just say, hey, here's the album or here's a song, and I want you to give me the Apple Music link, the Spotify link, the Amazon link, the Tidal link, and whatever. You can choose as many as you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking of making that a standalone shortcut so that when I want to share an album or a song on Twitter, I have an easier way to generate that link. Because MusicBot used Apple Music as input, so the new one will have to do something different. Maybe manual input, maybe a search using the Shortcutify app that I wrote about 2 weeks ago in Mac Stories Weekly. I'll have to change how you actually input the item that you want to share. At the same time,
right.
So that would probably be a shortcut. And I'm not sure, will I share it on Mac Stories or Mac Stories Weekly? I'm not sure yet. I'm also thinking of what's the best way for me to deal with Instagram stories? Because Apple Music has a special Instagram integration and it looks really nice. Spotify has one. It's not as nice as the Apple Music one. So shocking. I want to see what I can do with Instagram integration as well. And lastly, the thing on my mind also is I have a couple of playlists that I update throughout the year. Specifically, each year I put together a best of, say, for example, 2021 playlist that aggregates all of my favorite songs of the year. And again, it used to be that when I was an Apple Music user, I only cared about the Apple Music version of the playlist. Now that I'm a Spotify user, I'm building myself that playlist in Spotify, but my followers are Apple Music users. So how can I keep that playlist up to date throughout the year? Does it mean that on a monthly basis, I will have to generate a new version of the playlist using apps like SongShift, for example? Is there any way that I can automate this? Probably not, because Zapier, for example, doesn't have any Apple Music integration. So there's probably no way for me to automate this on a schedule. So I guess the solution will be that I create a reminder to do this monthly. But again, I wonder in the context of the things that we're doing for the club, which I don't want to announce yet, could there be a way for me to set this up in a better way for club members? Maybe. So these are the things I've been thinking about in relation to music and links.
Or you could just come back to Apple Music and make your life a lot easier.
Well, you joke about it, but I'm a pretty open-minded person, especially with the apps that I use. And if June comes and iOS 15 has a bunch of incredible Apple Music features, at that point, I will have used Spotify for 6 months. And if I'm tempted back by Apple Music, I will switch again. I'm done with this partisan approach to, no, I'm going to use this forever. I will never switch. Life's too short not to try a bunch of different things.
I agree with that 100%.
So we'll see.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
In June, if there's a WWDC in June, I think there will be an online one. So we'll see again when it happens.
Well, and even if you end up switching back to Apple Music at some point, you will have at least had the experience of being on the Spotify side, understand the app a lot better, and a lot of people have benefited from that because you've been building shortcuts and sharing them, and that all of that is good. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Microsoft Lists, your smart information tracking app in Microsoft 365. Keeping track of information is something that's in everyone's job description today. Quite simply, writing things down is what works for simple lists. But it can be overwhelming when you need to stay on top of hundreds of items and get others to pay attention and act. Microsoft Lists is a Microsoft 365 app that helps you easily track information and organize your work. Lists are simple, smart, and flexible so you can stay on top of what matters most to you and your team. Track issues, assets, routines, contacts, inventory, and a whole lot more using customizable views and smart rules as well as alerts to keep everyone in sync. With ready-made templates, you can quickly start lists online on the new mobile app on iOS or directly within Microsoft Teams. And because it's part of 365, you can rely on enterprise-ready security and compliance. When you think about it, so much of what we do in our work is to track information that falls into certain categories, which is exactly what lists are and why lists are a terrific format for doing something that everyone already does in their jobs. Whether it's a list of tasks, reference materials, links, addresses, upcoming projects, or anything else. What I like about Microsoft Lists is its flexibility and integration with 365 and its collaboration tools. So many apps are all about tracking lists of information that fall into a narrow category. What sets Microsoft Lists apart is that it brings all of this together, all of these different types of lists into one unified, organized place where they can be shared with colleagues and work in tandem with your other Microsoft 365 apps. On iOS, the app has a colorful, clear UI, and it supports dark mode. It lets you scan QR codes and add photos to your lists too. Your list just got a whole lot smarter. Get more done with Microsoft Lists. Just go to aka.ms/MSLists for more information, videos, demos, blog posts, and more. Again, that URL is aka.ms/MSLists. I'll have a link in the show notes too. Make a list and let it flow. Our thanks to Microsoft Lists for their support of the show. Federico, let's switch over to the main topic today, which is something we've never actually talked about in over 200 episodes. It's accessories.
Yeah.
We wanted to talk a little bit about the accessories we use for our iOS and iPad OS devices. And I don't know, maybe you should kick it off because you've got a pretty robust list here.
All right, so I want to kick it off with the Apple stuff. I think it's going to be easier. MagSafe. Big fan of MagSafe. My go-to case. So I have a two-case scenario going on at the moment. When I'm home,
Right.
I'm using a standard Pitaka slim case. So Pitaka is this company that makes this like super thin, sort of carbon fiber cases for iPhones and Android phones. I really love the material. I love the texture. It's not for everybody. It's super thin and super durable. You cannot scratch this case, even if you try. And I love that it doesn't cover the slim case for the iPhone 12. It doesn't cover the bottom edge of the iPhone. Unlike Apple's own cases, this one leaves the
Right.
part with the speaker grill and the lightning port uncovered, which I really like. And so this is the case that I use at home. And because I'm spending a lot of time at home because of the pandemic, this is the case that I have on most of the time. When I go out, and I wrote about this a few months ago in Mac Stories Weekly, when I go out, I use the Apple MagSafe case, the standard silicone one. I have a red one, and
Okay.
I use that because it provides an excellent connection with the MagSafe wallet, which I find myself, unlike other people, I find myself liking it a lot. I store my credit card, my ATM card, and my ID in the MagSafe wallet accessory. I attach it to the MagSafe case, and I wrote about this on Mac Stories a few months ago. Never had a single problem with it. I really don't know how people put their iPhones in their pockets if they have problems with the MagSafe wallet. Works totally fine for me. I love it. It's super convenient. When I'm like at the pharmacy, I just took it off real quick from the iPhone, grab my credit card, and I pay, and I'm done. And I reattach it again. So when I'm home, the Pitaka case. When I go out and about, the MagSafe case with the MagSafe wallet. And also the MagSafe case, I forgot to include this in my list. It attaches perfectly to the Belkin car mount thing that I have, which is also an officially licensed MagSafe accessory. So when I'm in the car, what I do is I take the MagSafe wallet, I put it in the little like cup holder that my car has, and I just attach the phone to the Belkin mount so that I can use Google Maps or Spotify when I'm driving, and it's perfect.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning, I guess, emphasizing that it's an official MagSafe device, because if you get unofficial devices that work with MagSafe, they generally don't deliver the same amount of power. But if it's official, you get the full 15 watts of charging, which I think is important because it just helps you charge your phone a lot faster. I use just kind of parallel to what you're talking about. I have a silicone case too. It's the Kumquat one, which is kind of a bright orange color. And I also, thanks to you, convinced me that I should try the MagSafe wallet, and I like it too. I got the California poppy colored one, which is kind of a yellow. Works kind of well with the orange case. And, I'm at home most of the time these days, so I don't have to go out and buy things very often. So having a wallet attached to my phone that only holds three cards is perfectly fine. I've got like my driver's license, a credit card, and an insurance card in there, I think, is all that's in there. And most of the time it just sits on my desk. But when I have to go out, I bring it along, and it's totally fine. So yeah, I'm doing the same thing there in terms of cases, but I'm just kind of a one case person. This is probably the most I've used a case too. And I don't know, part of it was I thought to myself, I don't want to go through the hassle of replacing a screen during a pandemic. I think Apple's got that all figured out and set up a lot better now than it was, a year ago at the beginning of this whole thing. But I just assume, I at some point I got into the habit of keeping my phone back in a case, and I've been doing that most of the time since I've had the 12.
Very nice. I also use the Apple MagSafe charger, what's it called? The MagSafe Duo? Is it called the Duo?
Yes.
The foldable one. Yes, that's been on my nightstand for the past couple of months. Again, a lot of people don't love it because they say it's flimsy and it's too expensive. It is expensive. But because I have a nightstand made of metal, I bought it from IKEA for like 40 euros 5 years ago. It actually attaches perfectly to that nightstand because of magnets. So it lays perfectly flat on my nightstand. And I charge my AirPods, my iPhone, Sylvia's AirPods, my Apple Watch, Sylvia's watch with it. I love it. I really like MagSafe, and I find I'm having a good time using Apple's own official accessories with it.
Before you move on, I do want to mention, since we're still on MagSafe, that I recently, and this is within the last week, purchased a Belkin Boost Charge Pro
nice.
3-in-1 wireless charger, right? I got the black one, and this is this is a round base with a stem that goes straight up, and then it has a MagSafe charger for your phone and another for your Apple Watch. And then you can put the AirPods Pro right in the on the base of it, and they charge there. So I really like it because I found that I had some Qi chargers, and I had one sitting on my desk that only charges at 5 watts. And I found myself picking up my phone as I worked enough that it really wasn't charging very much with that. But this way I can put my phone up, and it's vertical, a little bit of an angle. So I can see it, like I can see notifications come in if I want to do that, or I can tap away at it and start the music playing on my HomePods in my studio. It's just nice having that stuff right nearby on my desk, whereas I used to have it sitting on a Qi charger elsewhere in the room, and it became a bit of a frustration trying to get it both charged and use it during the day.
Nice. I'm looking at my list of Apple's accessories. I use the Magic Keyboard with my iPad. Obviously, this is I've wrote about this multiple times on Mac Stories before. This is by far, I think, the best iPad accessory that you can buy, especially for a pro iPad user. The fact that it folds, has multiple viewing angles, has a built-in trackpad, a backlit keyboard. It's the perfect iPad accessory at the moment. It's not cheap. Again, as with most Apple accessories, this is not cheap, but also it completely changes the way they use an iPad. So I figured I should mention this as one of the Apple accessories that I use every day. The Magic Keyboard is probably the Apple accessory that I've used the most. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
Something that I find myself enjoying a lot lately, too, AirPods Max. So the latest wireless over-ear headphones made by Apple. I'm using them a lot, especially when I'm doing like creating shortcuts or editing stories by other people like you, John. I find it comforting to have music going on in the background, and I really love the sound quality of AirPods Max. They're not nearly, they don't sound as good as my actually, really expensive Sony wired headphones, but these are by far the best sounding wireless headphones I've ever used. I love the noise cancellation and the transparency mode, and I love volume control with the digital crown. I never use Siri because there's nothing I need to do with Siri on this, but I love the way they sound. I love the controls. Not in love with the fact that the battery is draining a little too fast, but this is a common bug that a lot of people have reported lately. So hopefully a future firmware update to the AirPods Max will fix this. But yeah, I'm enjoying them a lot.
Yep. That's great. Yeah, I like mine a lot too. I've been using them an awful lot since I received them, and it's the kind of thing that I use in the evening a lot of times when maybe my wife's watching television and watching something I don't want to watch, and so I'll sit, in the room and maybe read something and just put on the noise cancellation so I'm not listening to the TV too. I don't know. I've liked them a lot too, and I use AirPods Pro a fair amount as well, on and off. I guess my usage of them has been less because of the AirPods Max, but I like them for walking outside, that sort of thing. So that's why I picked those up. I should also mention for keyboards, I've been doing an experiment, which I wrote about in the monthly log for Club Mac Stories just about a week ago, which is I have two keyboards for my iPad Air. I got the Smart Keyboard Folio initially for a couple of reasons. One, because it's smaller and lighter than the Magic Keyboard, and I wanted the iPad Air to be my ultra portable writing machine. So I picked that up. But after a while, I realized for really doing serious work on it, I really missed having the trackpad and being able to use the pointer. So when the Magic Keyboard that works with the iPad Air 11-inch eventually went on sale on Amazon, I picked that up too. And so now I kind of use them in tandem. I use the Magic Keyboard if I'm working during the day and trying to get a lot done. But in the evening, I'll put on the Magic Keyboard Folio because I really like that it folds behind the iPad. So, in the evening, I'm probably more likely to be watching video or reading a book or doing some, browsing the web, that kind of thing, where I don't need the keyboard most of the time. But every now and then, it's really nice to be able to flip that thing back around and quickly type out an email or a text message or whatever it happens to be. So I guess it's kind of, you could say it's a day keyboard and a night keyboard, very much like the old day phone and night phone joke. But it's it's maybe a little extravagant, but I've liked having that set up, especially with the Air. I don't do anything like that with the iPad Pro, the 12.9 inch, because that really is for me primarily a work machine, and if I'm working, I really want the better keyboard.
Very nice. Okay.
This episode of App Stories is brought to you by iMazing. You probably already know iMazing as that must-have tool for backing up and managing your iPhone and iPad files and data. There's really no better way to do that. But iMazing does so much more. Did you know that last year the iMazing team introduced a brand new way to back up and transfer iPhone photos to your Mac? It's pretty amazing. Within seconds of connecting your device to your Mac, its entire photo library is available, streamed straight from your iPhone. Since this feature debuted, iMazing has continued to update and improve it. Now, for the first time ever, the Photos feature is available on Windows PCs too. And on top of that, the app fully supports iOS 14 and has supported Apple's new ProRAW format from day one. A lot has gone into fine-tuning the app's performance too. Even browsing large photo libraries via Wi-Fi is seamless thanks to intelligent prioritization of when images get loaded in the background. These aren't low-res thumbnail previews either. Photos and videos can be viewed in high resolution, and even in full screen mode without having to import them first. Detailed metadata for each item is also displayed. Data like the file name, size, format, number of views, location, shutter speed, focal length, ISO, and a whole lot more are available at a glance. Additional assets such as originals of edited items, pre-bokeh effect versions of portrait mode photos, and even wide-angle shots of automatically reframed pictures can be easily previewed and transferred too. Photos and video can be exported in bulk with lots of options so you can precisely configure what you want to include or exclude from your export. Used in combination with iMazing's Time Machine-like backups, the new Photos tool enables easy browsing and recovery of items which have been completely removed from the device and from iCloud. Double-click any backup snapshot while browsing Photos and browse its photo library just as if you've jumped back in time. Pro photographers will appreciate the attention to detail and raw power, while casual users will love how easy it is to browse and export photos with iMazing. The new Photos tool is available as a free update for all iMazing 2 license holders. And if you don't have a license, browsing and backing up your photo library is entirely free, so there's no reason not to try. Head on over to iMazing.com and download iMazing on your Mac or PC to get started. iMazing has a great deal for listeners of this show, too. You can get 30% off all iMazing licenses from February 8th to February 16th, 2021 by using the coupon code AppStories-30-2021 at checkout. I'll put a link in the show notes, too, that'll take you right to that deal. So head on over to iMazing.com to check out this terrific app, try the Photos feature, and while you're at it, save 30% with the coupon code AppStories-30-2021. Our thanks to iMazing for their support of the show.
Back to music for a second, though. You use HomePods. You have a variety of HomePods.
I do. I mean, a couple of them are on loan from Apple, but I've got a pair of the HomePod minis in my studio, which I've really enjoyed listening to there. I used to have a full-size HomePod in my studio, but it was just too much for the amount of space I have here. So the stereo pair of the minis is much better. I usually run those at about 50% volume or so, whereas the old original HomePod was something that I never really put above 20% because there's just so much, full sound coming out of those original HomePods. It was too much for the size area I had. So I moved that into our living room and paired it with the other HomePod we had. So that is available there for watching TV or listening to music in kind of our main living space. And then I have a HomePod mini in my bedroom on the nightstand. And one complaint about a HomePod mini on the nightstand is that it's very easy when you don't have your glasses on and it's dark to actually accidentally brush your hand on the top of the HomePod and start music playing in the middle of the night or early in the morning when you really don't want to do that. I wish there was a way to deal with that. Maybe have a do not disturb mode for your typical sleeping hours or something. But yeah, I've enjoyed using those, and I AirPlay to them a lot. I know you guys talked a little bit about the music handoff feature on Connected and wondered who uses it. I don't use it much, but I do find once in a while that I'll be listening to music in my office and I'm in the middle of a playlist. I want to finish it, and I'll grab the music essentially from the HomePod to my iPhone, then take it upstairs and transfer it into the living room. I mean, I can also use Siri commands to do that kind of thing, but it's kind of fun to do it with the iPhone once in a while.
Speaking of music, I haven't used my AirPods Pro at all lately. I've used, and I mentioned this on Connected, I'm using the Sony wireless earbuds because these are the, they have that unspeakable name, the WF-1000 XM3. These are the AirPods Pro competitor by Sony. Wireless earbuds, they have a charging case. They have a different shape from AirPods Pro. They are obviously in-ear earbuds. I have a pair of foam tips that I use with them, and I just prefer the sound. They have this richer, warmer sound with more bass. That to me just sounds better than AirPods Pro. But I'm very curious to see what Apple does with AirPods Pro in 2021 with the version 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been enjoying listening to me, like falling asleep, listening to music, like if I have 10 minutes with those wireless earbuds.
How is it connecting them though compared to the AirPods? Is it
Bluetooth? It's totally fine. They're using Bluetooth version 5, I think. So the connection is pretty fast. Like as soon as I take one out and I put it in my ear, it already connects. Like as soon as I put it in, it's already connected to my phone. And I get a little banner that pops down from the status bar saying Sony earbuds connected. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I have more when it comes to music. So something that I want to share is the fact that so I talked about this before. I have a Sony Walkman high-resolution music player that I use for my offline local music library. This is for those times when I just want to sit down and listen to music and enjoy music without doing anything else, without looking at social media, without reading the news. It's my offline personal music collection. For a while, because my Sony Walkman has a USB DAC mode, which means it can be used as an external DAC for the iPhone or iPad. For a while, I did that with a USB adapter that I found and a dongle that basically did Lightning to micro USB to Sony Walkman proprietary port.
Wow.
But since I realized, no, I don't like using the Sony Walkman as a DAC. I just want to use it as a standalone music player. So for those times, and again, this is something that I explained on Connected a few weeks ago. For those times when I want to make a decision as to which album I want to purchase in high resolution format, I bought a standalone USB DAC for my iPhone, which is the FIO Q5S DAC. And I connect that via a cable to my iPhone, and I listen to the album using Amazon Music HD and my good Sony headphones. So this is like a middle step for me to say, okay, I want to stream a bunch of albums without making a commitment as to which ones I want to purchase, and then the ones that convince me the most when I'm listening in this environment with my good Sony headphones and with this external DAC, I will go out and spend, say, $30 to purchase and own the album in high resolution. And I can tell you, John, that I have a very particular cable that I use with this with the Q5S DAC, and get ready because it is a long name.
Go for
Reference
it.
Silver Lightning to Chord Hugo Mojo Audio Quest Dragonfly Interconnect Cable by Lavery Cables version 3.
I appreciate that you gave me a link for this because I don't think I'd be able to find this on my own.
It's a very short braided silver micro USB to Lightning cable.
Okay.
And that's about it for... Oh, I guess I have one last accessory that I want to mention, which is my Hyperjuice 130-watt USB-C battery pack. This is my external battery that I use to charge my iPad Pro, my iPhone, sometimes Sylvia's MacBook Pro, sometimes my Nintendo Switch. It's a really chunky, beefy, and powerful external battery that I use.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of those big chunky batteries because you can get an awful lot of juice out of them. And I've found that even though I'm not traveling much these days or really at all, that I like to be able to charge wherever I happen to be in the house and not worry about plugging something into the wall. I mean, maybe I'm lazy, but I just like, if I'm using something, maybe I'm sitting on the couch, maybe I'm sitting at my desk, whatever it happens to be, some things may be charging off of a brick in the wall, but I like having these power bricks too, where I can just attach 2 or 3 things and start charging them right away, and using them at my desk. So I use one by Anker. It's one I got a long time ago, and it's still doing a good job of holding a lot of charge. So I've continued to use that one. I guess the last thing that I want to mention are hubs, because I have still been on that quest that I think you and I have been on for more than a year now of finding the ultimate hub.
No, I gave up on it and I left the job to you. So you're in charge of the quest now.
I know. I thought I gave up this quest, but I keep getting pulled back in. And until recently, the one that I had settled on for most use cases was the 12 South Stego, which isn't powered, but it works really well as a portable hub. What I've been using recently is OWC's new Thunderbolt dock, because what it can do is it can take one, USB-C or Thunderbolt connection and turn it into three, which has only just become possible in the last couple of months with, I think it was Mac OS 11.1 Big Sur that introduced this. I mean, it was both a hardware upgrade that was necessary, because I don't think Intel's chipsets supported it until recently, but also an OS update that required it. So I use this with my new M1 Max because, the MacBook Air and the Mac Mini only have 2 Thunderbolt ports, and this is a way to expand the number of available ports. The one I'm using has the 3 Thunderbolt outs as well as an additional USB-A out. And because of it's powered, if I really want more than that, like with the MacBook Air, if I want to add an Ethernet cable or HDMI or SD card or something like that, I can actually just plug the Stego right into the OWC hub. So, I mean, that's not the most elegant solution, but it works pretty well without having purchased the bigger version that OWC makes, because they do make a bigger one that has all those other things in it too, including more USB-A outlets and SD card and all that kind of thing. So those are the hubs I'm using. That little hub works well with an iPad Pro too. So I've been using that once in a while, but there really aren't that many things that I plug into my iPad Pro on a regular basis. I guess the thing that I use most in that scenario would probably be the SD card reader, because I do like editing photos in Lightroom on the iPad. Sometimes I do it on the Mac, but the iPad is an awfully nice big screen that you can get up real close to and zoom in and out with your fingers and manipulate and edit that way, which is a lot of fun. So those are the hubs I'm using. And I think that OWC one, I mean, I haven't been using it for very long, but so far so good. I had an older model from like 18 months ago that I was using with my old Mac Mini, which is totally fine and has worked reliably for 18 months. So I'm hoping that this one has the same kind of useful life, because it is the one thing about M1 Max is that you don't have a lot of ports. And so finding a way to be able to expand those is pretty nice. Federico, before we close out, I want to ask you, and I'm going to share one of these too, but I want to ask you about an accessory that maybe you've tried sometime relatively recently that just didn't work out. And it's not necessarily because it's no good, but really just it wasn't something that really fit with the way you were using your devices. Do you have anything like that?
So I was torn between two. Before we recorded the show, I told you about the second one, but I just want to focus on one. And I figured it'll be, the more effective pick. The HomePod Mini, which you so lovely shipped from the US to me,
only like 2 months ago.
2 months ago, and it was a really unfortunate timing. Not because I don't like the HomePod Mini. I think for the size, for the price, it sounds really good. I think the new handoff feature for music is really well done. The problem is, just after I got the HomePod Mini, we made a decision with Silvia to switch to the Amazon Echo ecosystem. So it didn't really work out for our household right now. But I'm going to keep it. I'm selling my HomePods, but I'm going to keep the Mini. I'm going to keep one Mini and one regular size HomePod. So it didn't really work out, not because of its qualities, but because of the timing of the current situation.
All right. Well, what I'm going to share is something called the Lamical stand, which it's an iPad stand, and it clamps to the edge of a table. So I've got it clamped to my desk, and it's got this snake-like arm that ends in a bracket that holds the iPad. And I thought this would be a nice thing for the iPad Air, where I could suspend it at eye level and maybe use it as a second screen once in a while, or maybe use it for reading scripts for ad reads and that kind of thing for app stories. But the thing that bugs me about it is that every time I touch the screen, it jiggles a lot. It bounces up and down, and it's just not very stable. And as a result, I think it's got to go. Fortunately, it was only like $20 or $25. It wasn't like a major purchase, but But and I like the concept. I like the idea of having an adjustable arm that can be bent in any direction and move from one place on your desk to another. But the jiggling part really just there's something about it that just makes it both makes the iPad hard to use, and it's super distracting if it starts bobbing up and down, or maybe I hit my desk and all of a sudden my iPad is kind of bouncing up and down, and I don't like that. It's too distracting. So I'm gonna it's been sitting here unused, so I think I'm gonna disconnect it this weekend when I do that big desk cleanup and reduction down to one Mac, and get rid of this stand as well. All right, Federico, I think that's a good place to stop for this week. I want to thank our two sponsors again. That is Microsoft Lists and iMazing. You can find me and Federico over at macstories.net and at Club Mac Stories. Federico is on Twitter and Instagram, where he's at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JOHN VOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.